Technology is great, it helps, we need all that, but that should never be the focus. Sometimes we see smart city project where the technology is focused, and then you just get some technical solutions, but you don't get really how it helps people's everyday lives. So I think the thinking around the IoT, and be it the city or be it the company, should also be looking at, okay, well, how does it impact the people, either in that company or in the city, and if it improves their lives and their ways of doing work or doing their whatever they're doing, that's probably the starting point.
So it's just another version of human-focused design.
Exactly.
Except it's not a client, but it's the citizen itself.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Coffee with Mr. IoT. My name is Robert Schmidt. I am Deloitte's Chief Futurist, also known as Mr. IoT. Today on my show we have Teppo Rantanen, the Executive Director of Growth, Innovation and Competitiveness of the city of Tampere. Okay, how did I do?
You did pretty well. I mean, it almost sounded like correct.
Okay, well, you said again, so we get it really correct.
Yeah. So, Tampere.
Tampere.
Yep.
Tampere.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks.
It's great to have you. We've gone from being colleagues at Deloitte to you turning over a whole city and becoming very innovative. How has that been?
It's been fun. I've been doing it now for 3 years, and all the 15 years with Deloitte and 15 years with Anderson before that, turning into something you can do in practice, where you can actually start implementing things, and in a good way, where you bring something good for society as a whole. It's great. It's been fun.
So, I'm not sure you know this, but you're talking to someone who's been back and forth between industry. I started in industry, then I did consulting, then I went back to industry, was an executive for a gaming company, back to consulting. How was the switch from being a consultant to working in government?
Well, a lot of people warned me beforehand that, hey, how can you deal with all the things, like the bureaucracy of the organization and the slowness and the political decision making. Well, it's a fact, but to be honest, Deloitte, it's also some sort of a big organization, a lot of a political organization. So, but yeah, I kind of sometimes find it that I would rather see things happening faster than they are. But I've been able to build a really good team around me, so it's been fun to be part of building that team and then start seeing how it impacts the whole organization in the city.
It's been interesting for me, right? Because one of the things that I actually think in a corporation is different. Accountability is somewhat different, right? And sort of like, you are on the hook for certain things. Mm-hmm. And in Deloitte, we have many peers around us that we work with, which is sort of like you're never alone in a way. That was sort of like my big difference. I'm curious to hear from you. Tell us about some of the innovations you do in the city of Tampere. Give us some great examples.
So when I joined the city, we sort of had things going on here and there, which are a little bit loose and isolated.
How big is the city?
The city is around 400,000 people of the city region as a whole. The city itself, 250,000. And we are growing fast, so we are one of the fastest growing cities in Finland. Well, we started the program we called Smart Tampere, our Smart City program, and we sort of looked at how can we organize that. Actually, I get some help from Deloitte doing that. And we built around 6 verticals. So we have, because cities in Finland are pretty broad, so we take care of everything from healthcare to education to infrastructure to, whatever. And we built 6 verticals. We have smart manufacturing, part of our, believe it or not, part of our city strategy, because we have a very strong manufacturing city. We work together with the companies on that. We have smart healthcare, smart mobility, smart education, smart infrastructure, and smart government. And then we put some fundamentals which we need in order to make that happen. And then we define connectivity being one of those first things to do. Then we put another one which is around safety and security. And the third one, which has now become our top priority, is AI and analytics. Because that is what now when we have a lot of things in place, a lot of sensors in place, a lot of connections in place. We have 2 5G networks running in the city, for example, and now we get a lot of data. Now we need to figure out what do we do with the data. We get. But if you look at those specific things, we have been working on about 80 plus pilots, which some of them have been scaling up in various areas of the city. For example, one of the coolest things which I found is quite interesting. We have still quite high unemployment percentage.
And high
unemployment, yeah, about 10%. And we started to do a year ago first interview with an unemployed person is done by a robot. And first of all, it helped us to get more information, more relevant information about the people, because it's keep on asking and it's persistent on wanting to get certain information from the persons. But the user experience was also good. So people liked, hey, this is cool. I'm interviewed by a robot, and now we get the information.
Not as intimidating, maybe?
No, not at all. And that's kind of funny, because the other thing with robots, we took robots, the small, I think the Japanese origin, which wave hands and have big eyes and all that sort of stuff, to schools, to kids, to teach languages. So 7-8-year-old kids, now they learn English by a robot. And it's so fun because they are really eager to do that. And also teachers told us that they learn better because the shyness that kids have towards teacher. And I don't want to make mistakes, but with robots, it's easy. They do it, and it's fun because it kind of jokes back to them. But then we've done a lot of traditional smart city stuff around infrastructure, roads, lighting, trash bins, and also in the area of energy, buildings. But the couple of things which have been pretty cool is that, as I told you, we have those two 5G networks, and we've had the one open, this kind of test network for a year and a half now. And that's only for companies to come and test different things. So we provide them a platform, an area in the city where they can do different sort of things to try. And there's been a lot of innovative things coming up, some which benefit the city, some don't. They just do it and go to the market with those solutions. It helps our startup companies, smaller companies, but also big ones to do sort of testing. So we are happy to be a platform for that sort of things happening.
So I have two questions, but I'm going to start with the 5G one because it was sort of like right there. To me, 5G, particularly where I live in the US, has been a lot of talk, but not a lot of actual physical 5G availability. So to hear from you that you have it fascinates me. What have you found? What have you provided people? Who is using it? And has it been as great as people make it out to be?
Not yet. So what we have found that in the 1.5 years' time, when it was being sort of put up and built, there was still a lot of problems, a lot of issues getting really up and running. The test we've been doing with that has been around autonomous cars. So autonomous driving has been one of those key elements there. Some of them have been looking at other sensors connecting there, but you don't really need 5G for those. And the third one is interesting, which is very early phase, is around healthcare. And that's around remote healthcare. So how you do sort of a IoT hospital sort of an idea. And then which I think 5G is, for us, probably the most interesting one has been the latency of the very short period of time that it takes to reflect, both in autonomous driving and on the healthcare side. But to be honest, I don't think that there's still the benefits that we want to get from there. But at least we get the chance for companies to see that and test that and build something like that.
So do you have 5G coverage in the whole city?
Well, we have another 5G coverage, which is a commercial network. So they started as sort of a 5G ready, and now they're upgrading to 5G. But the question is, we don't have terminals, so it's not like, how would you really benefit from the 5G?
Or you need the sensors for that,
exactly.
Maybe you need to buy specific sensors.
Exactly. Or even, we had the first, I think it was world's first 5G call, as they told it when they put it up. But it's like, you could do it with 4G anyway, so it doesn't really show any difference. So it's a lot of buzz around the 5G, and I think we still have to wait and see. But I think there are areas like the autonomous driving, like the healthcare area, where it's significant if we can get the things up and running.
Well, I think it'll come. It'll just be a matter of time. I'm curious to see when the switch happens from it being talked about to really delivering those benefits in healthcare and autonomous cars. So you also said something in the same sentence about you like to be the playground, or you didn't use playground, you used the test ground, the innovation ground for many new things.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people approaching you, offering you stuff to play with, to test.
Yeah, we've been.
How do you choose what you actually test with and what you actually start working on? Because if you have so many, you don't want to dilute all your resources.
So, two ways of doing that. The other one is that we in some form, maybe a type of hackathon, we come with city problems that we have identified and ask them to come up with solutions to our city problems. But the others are also that they are developing within those themes. They have built a small ecosystems. We have about 300 companies within our ecosystem right now. 70 of them which are more, bigger. 300 companies. 70 of them are like big global companies, and there we have sort of what they call the LOI partners. So all of them have signed some sort of a letter of intent that we want to work together with you. Like Deloitte, we want to work together with you.
Oh, we don't make the 70, we're only in the 300?
No, you're in the 70.
Oh, we're in the 70,
you're
okay.
In the 70. And I was also able to get, really interesting big global players to come there, which didn't before exist in Tampere, to come and join this. And they form sort of a small ecosystem communities around those teams. And they also come up with ideas, and this might be something which we could use. And then the other way is that we say that we have the 5G test network, and we offer that as, why don't you do something there, and get back, because we offer our open data, why don't you do something with the open data and see what comes out of that. We also have a great example is where city has been putting a lot of investment money. We are building a tram, 20 kilometers of light rail type of tram, first one in the city. And that's, being something where we want to develop the smartest tram in the world. And we got an anchor company there, Skoda Translate, who's doing the kind of cars for the tram. And around it's about 15 companies and the city and the university working together to build whatever can be put into this tram. And there's 5G going under it. There's sort of a intelligent glass in the windows. There's cameras. You could have facial recognition or whatever you want to. And this is something which we are now developing to make that as one of the products. So we come up with some things we are seriously moving forward with, and offer that as a platform for companies to come and see and try and test. And in those testing areas, we want to be playing like a startup community way. So we want to fail fast as well. So we want to see that this is something we put up in an experiment. Hey, come along, let's see, let's try. If it works, we'll continue. If it doesn't, let's stop and start something new. And that, I think, companies have found pretty good. They can come and join something with us. If it works, if it doesn't, move forward.
So, out of the projects you do, how many do you continue on, and how many do you? I call it learn fast, which is sort of like you stop.
I think out of the 80 that we have done, there's probably around 40 that have just stopped. So
40?
Half just stopped. We did learn things, and we did pick up something from those. But then not, out of the rest 40, I think that we have probably 15 that we have actually been scaling up, and the rest are still in making. So we're looking at. But some of the 40 we stopped actually have moved into something else. So we kind of started a new one, which isn't exactly what we did. When we learned that, hey, this might be something useful somewhere else. And I think there's very few that we simply said that there's no use of this. So maybe some of those, but not many. And the good thing is we have been able to give our companies, the small companies, the startups, a sort of a marketplace. So it's not only us, we work together with the other big 6 cities in Finland, we work together with the Nordic cities, or the Nordic Smart City Network, and that's always a market for them immediately out there. And actually we do work quite a lot together with the others to make that happen.
So I have to admit, listening to you and sort of like putting this in perspective, it might be my ignorance and lack of understanding, but I gotta ask you, a city, 250,000, 400,000 people, doesn't seem very big, and yet all the stuff you do is amazing. One, a lot of things, and it seems to me there's a significant amount of investment required. Where does the money come from? How much is city? How much is Finland government spending? How much is private funding? Help me understand some of that, and help me to put it in perspective in the Finnish, like all over Finland is the city unique, and sort of give me perspective on that.
Well, I think that we are a little bit ahead of the curve in the, if you look at the other Finnish cities, but they're doing great things as well. Maybe our holistic ecosystem thinking is a little bit different and more broad. But to answer your question on money, I think that a good example is 2018. when we had 8 million euros of city money that we put into the project, and out of the 8 million came projects worth of 85 million euros. So we got the additional funding coming maybe half from sources like the Finnish government or EU, but almost half was private investments joining this thing. So that's what we've been looking for all the time to get the, we as a city, we don't have that much money. So we can only put things in moving, and we use our money as seed money to, make things happen. Sometimes we do buy some significant things, if we renew our lighting, for example. But most of the time we're just putting it, let's start it, let's push it forward, and we see our role as kind of nurturing that going forward. We sort of facilitate the whole process and make sure it moves forward, but let the others then take care of that and operate. So, I mean, one of the concepts that we have been thinking about is that we should see city as a service. So that should be one of the way we are looking at things. Traditionally, cities own a lot of things. They are, they own land and buildings and operations and all that sort of stuff. That should not be, the case in the future. It might be part of it, but still the mentality should be seen as more like moving to a city as a service. And then it's important that you find those partners in the ecosystem who actually start co-investing and start taking ownership of different things, start running the operations. And some of them are so new that there just isn't anyone. I mean, take an example. We've been now building our mobility as a service platform. And right now the biggest, we have a lot of things going on there, but we don't still know who the operator is, who would be operating that mobility as a service platform. So, is it more a data game? Is it about data, which I believe it is, more than just moving people around? But who would be the operator? How would that work, And it's still something we talk to the other cities, and we always have the same problem. The other example is data itself. So we think that the cities have a big role in data in the future. And we also think that European cities have an even bigger role on data because of the European legislation, GDPR, and other things, which actually help us to, form sort of a ethical use of data principle, and the principle of my data, where people are owning their data, then they give permissions to use that. But who would be again the party doing that? Because people probably, at least in the context of the Finnish and Nordic countries, would trust more the government, the local government, than private companies to do that. So maybe it's us who should have a role. And that's again something we try to figure out, how to do that. And we share these discussions with cities around the world, basically, all looking at, okay, what should we do with the data? We have a lot of data today. It's like, raw data. Should we start doing something with the data? Should we start combining the public and private data together? How does people's own my data go into this equation? And that's one of the really, really interesting things we're thinking about right now.
So let me try to see if I got this right. If I heard you right, you said there was about 50% public funding. I think you said Europe, I think you said government, Finland funding, and probably some city funding, but minimal city funding, it sounds like, that fostered another 50% of private funding. 50% public created 50% private funding.
Yeah.
Okay. Fascinating number, fascinating. So, and really, the other thing I heard, if I heard this right, is that you as a city, you provided almost like, here, I'm willing to do this on my space, in my city, if you bring the money and if you bring the technology. Did I get this right?
Yeah, that's about it. We want to see that, we can provide the platform for different parties to come in. And within our ecosystem of companies, we have told as our LOI companies, we've been telling them, hey, we need you to come in and invest as well. So you don't see us as a client. We're not as a client to you, we're partners. We do this together, we're ecosystem partners. And that has been tremendously well received. And the size of the city is also another thing. A lot of big companies say, okay, now I can have a test bed as a whole city, which is sizable enough to make it meaningful, but small enough to make it happen. You don't do it in London, you don't do it in New York. You can do it here because then you have a city that,
So how many cities like this exist in Finland? Are you a unique city in Finland? Is there 10? What is it?
We're 6. So and then out of the 6, 3 are in the capital region, which basically form just one region. So they actually are one big city. So 3 other cities in addition to that. But in the Nordics, probably we have 50 to 100 cities which are the same size as us. There are no big cities in the Nordics anyway. So it's sort of, we all share the same thing. And when I talk to the cities in the US, it's interesting. I was just in Chicago.
Does that exist in the US?
I was just a week ago, a month ago in Chicago, and it was not Chicago itself, but it's Aurora, which is next to Chicago, which is doing fantastic smart city stuff because the size of Aurora is similar to the size of a Nordic city. I think there's something magic to it, so you can see things moving forward when you have the size which is manageable.
So what cities do you go to learn? And I guess this is a reverse way of asking, who do you think is leading the way?
Well, we spent 2 days here in Barcelona with the city of Barcelona, and there's a lot of things they have done. They geared now their direction to very focus on citizen-centric city, smart city, which is looking at participation, democracy, digital democracy issues a lot. So I think that's leading the pack in that aspect. The other cities we talk to a lot is cities like Amsterdam, other Dutch cities as well.
None of them are small though. Yeah. I mean, Barcelona, the wider city is 4.5 million. Amsterdam, I don't know, probably in the millions too. Definitely not in the 100,000s.
And that's interesting because then, what we see also happening is that they haven't been able to implement things. They have been developing really cool stuff, but because of the size and the magnitude of the city, it's very hard to start really implementing that.
What stops them?
I think it's sheer size. It requires so much resources to do that. But I think it's always a question also of the complication of putting the politics together, getting different governments in 3, 4, 5 years periods, which might make a difference. That you don't have the support you need. But also, I think it's just a pure fact that the cities don't have money. We need others to bring the money to the game.
I want to take this back to the personal. Do you live in Tampere?
Yes, I do.
And you lived there even when you worked for Deloitte?
Well, the funny thing is that I've been living there all my life. I've been working 20 years in Helsinki when I worked with Anderson and Deloitte, 2 years in Stockholm, 3 years in London. But my home base was there. So at least for the weekends, I came back there. And so it was an easy decision when I decided to join the city, retire from Deloitte, and start doing this stuff. So it was fairly easy to say. And my family's there, my kids' families are there, so everybody's like around.
So I want to bring this back to the citizens of your city. How do they receive all of this? And I'm asking this because change is hard. And in a way, you're introducing change. Or is it not? Maybe I don't know. I'm really curious. How do you sell the citizens on all these plans and all these changes? How is it received?
Yeah, that's spot on question, because that is the toughest challenge we have. Is how we see the change happening, not only with the citizens, but also within the city people, within the staff people, because at the top leadership, everybody's for it, and the politicians are for it. So we have a lot of backup and support. But then you move down the ladder of the organization.
I have to ask you, when you say for it, is this across parties that they're really interested in this?
It's a cross party. Actually, I have a steering group, which is cross party steering group. They selected really good guys for big parties.
Okay, great. Thank you. I was just curious. I'm not even deep into politics in Finland. I was just curious.
It's multi-parties. But the thing is that if you look at, for example, the healthcare, which we've been struggling a little bit to get that moving, and there is resistance coming from doctors and nurses. They are resisting the technologies. There's resistance coming from the patient side, suspicious about the technologies. Look at the mobility as a service. To a certain extent, they are pro taking new stuff in use, but when you start talking about autonomous buses, it's already starting to, okay, can I trust an autonomous bus to do this sort of thing? But there are sufficient big number of people who are willing to do the testing. So I think that we need to find what's the right, within the city organization, we have a method there where we have about 80 people working on this smart city stuff. And part of that 80 is people that we transfer from other departments for a year to be part of the whole digital experience, and then they move back to their.
So you bring them in the family,
exactly,
to make them be part of it. Okay.
Exactly, and then they spread the message when they go back. That's really helping.
And regular citizens on the street?
And regular citizens, I think that there's a growing number of people who really want to see things move in this direction. And they're the ones we're attacking first. Hey, you take this on and you start doing this. Finland is fairly good if you look at the way that people adopt technology. So technology is kind of easy to adopt. I think we're more struggling with how to deal with the elderly people now with the aging population. With the elderly people, with the aging population, we have so much more old people who are not familiar with technology, might be afraid of that. The other special group we're now looking is, we have a relatively high unemployment, as I was mentioning. We have also people who are like second or third generation unemployed. So there's sort of a, not big number, but still. We don't see how we can actually get them as well into the equation. Maybe we could use technology also to pull them in somehow into the equation. So these are sort of exciting things we are trying to do because we feel that, at the end of the day, it's almost before our citizens. They must be, just looking at this to improve their everyday life. And how can we kind of convey that message and make sure that they get it? And we involve them quite a lot. So we ask a lot of questions from them and get them, to be responding and giving ideas and developing ideas together with us. And that helps also because then you get at least some part who are, they're eager to be part of the change. And that's how we can change, slowly but surely the whole city.
I want to ask for advice to close this. I have a slide in most of my decks that talks about the human factor of IoT, and it says IoT isn't just about money and revenue and apps. And I admire you live that, right? You really made what you did for Deloitte into making a human impact. What's your advice for me to take home to the US? How we can do more in my city, in my neighborhood? Give me some advice. The one thing you tell me to take home.
It is exactly, as you have put it, because if you don't take the sort of a citizen first kind of aspect to it, where you actually start looking at from the people perspective, technology is great, it helps, we need all that, but that should never be the focus. Sometimes we see smart city project where the technology is focused, and then you just get some technical solutions where you don't get really how it helps people's everyday lives. So I think the thinking around the IoT, and be it the city or be it the company, should also be looking at, okay, well, how does it impact the people, either in that company or in the city, and if it improves their lives and their ways of doing work or doing their, whatever they're doing, that's probably the starting point.
So it's just another version of human-focused design.
Exactly.
Except it's not a client, but it's the citizen itself.
Yeah.
It's like a use case that actually helps.
Yeah. That is so important.
Teppo, thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad we have you here both at our booth and also at the show. And thanks for what you do. And I don't know, come on to the US. I think we need you more over there too.
Thanks. I will do that.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
And this brings another coffee chat to an end. Thank you for watching. If you missed any of today's show or any previous shows, check out our playlist. Just search on YouTube for Coffee with Mr. IoT. Till next time. Bye.